Behind Closed Doors is the third studio album by English hard rock band Thunder. Recorded between May and August 1994 at various studios, primarily Southern Tracks in Atlanta, Georgia, it was produced the band's lead guitarist Lute Morley and Mike Fraser, the latter of whom also mixed the album at the record plant in Los Angeles, California. The album was released on January 23, 1995 by EMI Records in Europe and Japan, and was not released in the United States. Following the departure of the band's original bassist Mark Nate Luckhurst in December 1992, Behind Closed Doors is the first, and only, Thunder album to feature his replacement Mike Hoagland, who joined in February 1993. All 5 band members, as well as former producer Andy Taylor, contributed to the writing of the material on the album, which also featured a wide range of additional guest musicians. Behind Closed Doors peaked at number 5 on the UK Albums Chart. Behind Closed Doors was promoted on the Behind Closed Doors tour beginning in April 1995, which included shows in the UK, Europe, and Japan, as well as a number of festival dates. 3 singles were released from the album, all of which reached the top 40 of the UK singles chart. Stand Up peaked at number 23, River of Pain peaked at number 31 and Castles in the Sand peaked at number 30. All 3 singles also reached the UK rock and metal singles chart top 5. After recording some initial demos of new material in London, Thunder began pre-production on their third studio album on May 6, 1994 at Standridge Studios in Haylands Heath, West Sussex. Mike Fraser, who had previously mixed the band's debut album Backstreet Symphony in 1990, returned as the main producer for Behind Closed Doors alongside the band's lead guitarist and primary songwriter Lute Morley. Fraser also engineered and mixed the record. On May 23, the band flew out to Atlanta, Georgia to begin recording of the new album at Southern Tracks. Speaking about the decision to record the album in the United States, Morley explained that it was a last-ditch attempt to motivate Geffen, the band's American record label, who he claimed had failed to support previous release Laughing on Judgment Day. However, the band's A&R representative John Kalodner later left Geffen for Sony Music Entertainment, and the album was ultimately not released in the US. Most of the recording for Behind Closed Doors was completed at Southern Tracks in Atlanta, although additional recording continued at Rumble Recorders in Los Angeles, California throughout June and July. Bassist Mike Hoagland, who had joined the band the previous year, recalls that the drums and bass were supposed to be recorded at Southern Tracks Studios in Atlanta, but our guitar tech was a big dope smoker and completely useless. When I asked him to set up my bass to make it as easy to play as possible, he loosened the bolts that hold the neck to the body so that the strings and the fretboard were closer together, which resulted in his instrument being out of tune for the sessions. Guitarist and keyboardist Ben Matthews praised Hoagland's contributions to the album, suggesting that his love of Geezer Butler and all things Black Sabbath was reflected in his playing and his songwriting contributions to Behind Closed Doors, giving it a darker and heavier feel. Recording of Behind Closed Doors was completed with additional sessions at Jacobs Studios in Farnham, Surrey, Armory Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, and the record plant in Los Angeles. The album was later mixed by Fraser at the record plant in July 1994, and mastered by George Marino at Sterling Sound in New York City, New York. Recording of Behind Closed Doors was completed by August 12, 1994, according to the album's liner notes. Stand Up was released as the first single from Behind Closed Doors on December 28, 1994, accompanied by a music video filmed during a show at the Shepherd's Bush Empire in London 3 weeks earlier. The single debuted at number 23 on the UK Singles Chart and number 2 on the UK Rock and Metal Singles Chart, behind Van Halen's Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. River of Pain was issued as the album's second single on February 13, 1995, debuting at number 31 on the UK Singles Chart and number 5 on the UK Rock and Metal Singles Chart, and Castles in the Sand was released as the third and final single from the record on April 24, 1995, reaching number 30 on the UK Singles Chart and number 2 on the UK Rock and Metal Singles Chart. Behind Closed Doors was released on January 23, 1995 in Europe by EMI Records, and 2 days later in Japan by Toshiba EMI. Prior to the album's release, Thunder completed the short Stand Up and Be Counted tour, which visited a number of UK cities in December 1994. The opening European leg of the Behind Closed Doors tour began on April 5, 1995 in Hamburg, Germany, and wrapped up on May 12 at London's Hammersmith Apollo. The band supported Bon Jovi alongside acts including Van Halen and Slash's Snake Pit in June and July, and later toured Japan in late August. Upon its release, Behind Closed Doors debuted at number 5 on the UK Albums Chart, its peak position, and topped the UK Rock and Metal Albums Chart. It remained in the UK Top 40 for 3 weeks and the Top 100 for a total of 6 weeks, and later returned to the chart for 2 weeks in May. The album also reached the top 20 of the Scottish Albums Chart, peaking at number 18. Outside of the UK, Behind Closed Doors reached number 56 on the German Albums Chart, number 22 on the Swedish Albums Chart, and number 44 on the Swiss Albums Chart. Reviewing the album for AllMusic, Eduardo Rivadavia praised Behind Closed Doors for featuring accessible, yet commendably earthy melodic rock nuggets, as well as crediting the band for experimenting with different styles by noting that Thunder also embraced slightly darker vibes with memorable results, got the funk out successfully, and noticeably toned down overall pop rock thresholds. Rivadavia also credited the band for sticking to their guns despite hard rock and heavy metal music becoming markedly less successful with the continued increase in popularity of genres such as grunge and alternative rock. In a review of the remastered edition of the album for Record Collector, William Pinfold also noted that Behind Closed Doors was released at an awkward time for the band and traditional hard rock in general, but nonetheless praised the record as an impressively confident and mature recording. Penfold suggested that Behind Closed Doors is a touch less essential than Thunder's first 2 albums, but also highlighted the bonus disc for making the album an essential purchase for many fans. McIver, Joel, November 11, 2016, Giving the Game Away, The Thunder Story, London, England, Omnibus Press, ISBN 978-17855811373.